Have you ever felt that breakthrough is just out of reach? That life-changing moment that seems to linger on the horizon? There is a hidden, powerful principle in God's word. Sometimes all it takes is a simple, focused act of faith. This is not about long prayers, rituals, or outward displays. For just 23 seconds, when you align your heart with God's promise and speak with faith, the unseen forces of heaven begin to work on your behalf. Watch closely. Within 24 hours, the shift can be so real, so powerful, that your life will never be the same. Many people believe that a breakthrough in life, a transformation in their circumstances, or a manifestation of God's power requires monumental effort, hours spent in prayer, endless rituals, or grand gestures of devotion. Yet the Bible and spiritual experience often reveal the opposite, the profound power of simplicity. It is in the smallest acts of focused faith that God's greatest miracles are often unlocked. What we may see as minimal, trivial, or even insignificant can, when aligned with God's purpose, carry unimaginable weight. A prayer of 23 seconds, spoken with true heart, conviction, and expectation, holds within it a spiritual force that is far greater than the time or effort it consumes. Simplicity is not weakness, it is concentrated strength. Consider the analogy of a magnifying glass focusing sunlight. On its own, a ray of light is gentle, harmless, almost unnoticeable, yet when focused through a lens, that same light can ignite, transform, and even create fire. The same principle applies to faith. A simple, concentrated act, like a short prayer spoken in alignment with God's will, focuses the unseen spiritual energy around us and transforms it into tangible results. Complexity can dilute faith, scatter attention, and distract the heart. Simplicity, by contrast, sharpens our spiritual vision and amplifies the effectiveness of even the briefest moments of devotion. Psychologically, this principle aligns with what we know about focus and intention. The human mind is wired to achieve more when attention is concentrated. Likewise, the spirit responds to the clarity and purity of intention. When a believer dedicates themselves to a prayer that is short but powerful, free of distraction or self-doubt, that moment becomes a point of convergence, a spiritual fulcrum where heaven meets earth. The 23-second prayer, seemingly simple and fleeting, is a concentrated expression of trust, a crystal-clear declaration that God's intervention is not only desired but expected. Philosophically, simplicity teaches us humility and dependence. It reminds us that our strength is not in the length of our prayers or the grandeur of our efforts, but in our alignment with a higher power. The shortest prayer, offered with a sincere heart, can carry more weight than hours of superficial repetition. This is because God responds not to human verbosity, but to human authenticity. In that brief, focused moment, we strip away the noise, the distractions, and the doubts, leaving only faith, a pure, unencumbered channel for divine power. Life often teaches us to complicate our spiritual journey, to measure devotion in time, effort, or outward display. Yet the story of faith is filled with examples where simplicity conquered complexity. The widow's small offering, the boy's 5 loaves and 2 fish, the mustard seed of faith, all demonstrate that God's power is magnified through focused, humble, and sincere action. In the same way, dedicating 23 seconds to a prayer, spoken with expectation and faith, can unlock doors that seem permanently closed. The key is not the quantity of effort, but the quality of the connection. So when you approach this simple, short prayer, understand that you are stepping into a principle far greater than time or effort can measure. You are engaging the power of concentrated faith, the transformative force of simplicity, and the profound truth that God honors focused devotion. Even in a world that glorifies busyness and complexity, the spiritual path often bends toward those who embrace simplicity, clarity, and intentionality. Let this be your guiding truth. Simplicity is not a limitation, but the secret leverage of miracles. Speak your prayer with unwavering expectation, even if it lasts only 23 seconds. Let faith, not form, guide your words, and watch how the smallest, most concentrated act can reshape your tomorrow. It is not the length of your prayer, but the depth of your faith that invites the extraordinary. There is a hidden principle in the life of faith that many overlook: the power of secret alignment. Life often trains us to pursue results openly, to measure success by visibility, recognition, or immediate evidence. Yet spiritual laws operate differently. They honor alignment of heart, mind, and spirit with God's purpose. When your prayer, your intention, and your expectation are secretly synchronized with the will of God, you engage a force that is invisible yet overwhelmingly powerful. This is the essence of secret alignment. It is not the noise of outward effort, but the quiet, precise harmony with divine intention that produces results that defy logic and exceed expectation. Secret alignment is subtle, yet its effects are profound. In our visible world, we are accustomed to seeing action produce results. But in the spiritual realm, what is unseen often carries far greater weight. Just as the roots of a tree work silently beneath the soil to sustain life above, your hidden moments of alignment cultivate outcomes that the world cannot immediately perceive. These hidden alignments, your private prayers, your focused moments of faith, your intentional conversations with God, establish a spiritual foundation upon which visible miracles are built. The 23-second prayer is more than words. It is a deliberate act of aligning your heart with God's purpose. Psychologically, this principle resonates with the idea of congruence. When your beliefs, intentions, and actions are in harmony, they produce a kind of internal coherence that allows your mind and spirit to function at their highest potential. Similarly, spiritual alignment allows divine power to flow unobstructed. When your inner world is attuned to God's will, even the shortest act of faith can trigger a cascade of results. Misalignment, on the other hand, when prayer is mechanical or hope is diluted by doubt, blocks the natural flow of spiritual power. True alignment is not performed for others. It is cultivated privately, intentionally, and with expectancy. Philosophically, secret alignment teaches patience and trust. It reminds us that not all results need to be immediate or visible. Much of life's transformation begins in hidden spaces, moments when no one is watching, when external validation is absent, and the only witness is God Himself. In these private moments, you build a spiritual momentum that, once released, can move mountains. Alignment is therefore both preparation and action. Preparation of your heart and mind to be in tune with God, and action in the form of faithful, intentional prayer. The brevity of the 23-second prayer does not limit its power. Its brevity concentrates your alignment, making your focus sharp, your intention pure, and your faith unshakable. Consider the dynamics of energy. When all forces converge toward a single point, their combined impact is far greater than their individual contributions. Secret alignment works in the same way. By quietly harmonizing your heart with God's will, you concentrate spiritual energy that multiplies results beyond what you could achieve through noise or showmanship. The unseen alignment is what empowers a prayer to transform situations, open doors, and create opportunities that defy ordinary explanation. So when you approach the short, secret prayer, understand that its true power lies not in its duration or outward form, but in the alignment it creates. Your hidden focus, your private expectancy, and your deliberate harmony with God's plan set into motion forces that are beyond human calculation. In a world that often equates visibility with value, remember that the most powerful forces are those operating quietly, invisibly, but with perfect alignment. The secret alignment of your heart with God's will is the gateway to extraordinary results. In silence, in focus, in deliberate harmony, the unseen becomes unstoppable. Faith is more than a feeling or an abstract belief. It is the active force that transforms possibility into reality. Many people pray, hope, or dream, yet their efforts remain stagnant because faith is absent or dormant. Faith is not passive, it is a deliberate engagement with God's power. When you speak a prayer of 23 seconds with unwavering belief, you are not merely reciting words, you are activating results. Faith is the invisible engine that sets into motion the divine laws of the universe. Without it, prayers remain potential energy. With it, they become kinetic, moving mountains, opening doors, and orchestrating circumstances in ways that logic cannot predict. Consider the psychology of faith. Human action is most effective when paired with deep conviction. When the mind and heart truly believe in an outcome, behaviors align, attention sharpens, and resilience strengthens. Similarly, in the spiritual realm, Faith aligns your spirit with God's power, directing divine energy toward the intended outcome. This is why a short, focused prayer can yield immediate and powerful results. The duration or complexity of the prayer is secondary. What matters is the intensity of belief, the certainty that God hears, that God moves, and that the desired outcome is already in motion in the spiritual dimension. Faith does not doubt, hesitate, or question. It simply trusts and releases. Philosophically, faith is both cause and effect. It is the principle that bridges the seen and unseen, the temporal and eternal. When you pray with faith, you are not asking God to perform a favor you hope for. You are aligning yourself with the divine order that has already been established. Your faith acts as a channel through which God's will flows into your reality. This is why Scripture says that faith can move mountains, not metaphorically, but as an expression of spiritual law. When your words, heart, and expectation converge in faith, you are not performing a ritual, you are activating a mechanism that transforms the invisible into the tangible. Faith also carries a psychological clarity that empowers decisive action. When you believe that your prayer will yield results, you begin to perceive opportunities, take inspired steps, and make choices consistent with your desired outcome. Doubt, fear, or hesitation, by contrast, clouds judgment and obstructs progress. Faith, therefore, is not only a spiritual principle, but a cognitive and emotional amplifier. It primes your mind to recognize the paths that align with divine intervention and to act courageously within them. The 23-second prayer becomes a concentrated spark that ignites both spiritual and practical results simultaneously. In life, we often wait for proof before believing. Yet faith asks us to act in advance, to speak, to trust, to declare, even when the evidence is unseen. This paradox is where transformation occurs. Faith does not require that circumstances change first. It requires that your heart is steadfast and your words are intentional. By speaking a prayer with conviction, you are signaling to the universe, and more importantly to God, that you are ready to receive, that you are in alignment, and that you are participating actively in the realization of your breakthrough. So, when you approach this brief, powerful prayer, understand that faith is not a passive hope. It is a decisive force. It is what activates unseen realities, directs divine attention, and sets the stage for results that surpass human imagination. Even in just 23 seconds, when spoken with expectation and trust, faith moves beyond theory into tangible outcomes. Faith is the switch that turns prayer into power, intention into reality, and possibility into certainty. Speak with faith and watch the unseen begin to manifest. One of the most remarkable truths of faith is that transformation does not always wait for months, years, or even the perfect set of circumstances. When faith meets God's timing, change can occur suddenly, unexpectedly, and profoundly. Many people labor under the misconception that miracles are slow, gradual, or incremental. Yet spiritual law operates on a different rhythm, one where divine timing intersects with human readiness, creating moments of immediate transformation. A simple 23-second prayer, spoken with genuine conviction and expectancy, can initiate a swift and decisive shift. What may appear as a brief, almost casual act is in reality a precise alignment with divine power. From a psychological perspective, transformation begins the moment your belief transcends doubt. When you speak words of faith, even for a mere 23 seconds, your mind, heart, and spirit align in a concentrated burst of expectation. This alignment triggers both internal and external change. Internally, your perception shifts. You begin to see possibilities where once there were limitations, to hear guidance that was previously obscured, and to recognize opportunities that were always present but unnoticed. Externally, circumstances start to respond in ways that reflect the focused energy of your prayer. The unseen forces of God's order begin to move, arranging events, people, and circumstances to bring about outcomes that from a human perspective can seem instantaneous. Philosophically, immediate transformation is a demonstration of the dynamic interaction between divine principle and human action. While time in the physical world is linear, in the spiritual dimension, readiness and alignment can accelerate results. When your faith is focused and your intention is clear, the divine realm responds not gradually but in perfect synchrony with your expectation. This principle explains why so many miracles in Scripture appear sudden. A woman is healed instantly, a storm is calmed in a moment, and a life is turned around at the word of faith. The brevity of your prayer does not limit the impact, rather it concentrates it. Just as a laser focuses light into a powerful beam, a brief, faithful prayer channels divine energy into immediate effect. Immediate transformation also carries profound psychological reinforcement. When change occurs quickly in response to faith, it validates belief, strengthens confidence, and encourages continued reliance on God's promises. The 23-second prayer becomes more than words. It becomes a lived experience of divine responsiveness. This experience rewires perception, replacing skepticism with expectancy, hesitation with decisiveness, and fear with courage. Transformation is no longer theoretical. It becomes real, tangible, and undeniable. The human spirit, once awakened to the immediacy of God's intervention, begins to operate with a renewed sense of power and possibility. Yet the key to accessing immediate transformation is not desperation, hurry, or outward display. It is sincerity, focus, and alignment with God's purpose. Miracles do not respond to panic or impatience. They respond to faith, clarity, and intentionality. The 23-second prayer works because it is an act of concentrated faith offered with expectation in harmony with divine timing. Its brevity is a strength, not a limitation, because it allows your heart and mind to speak with precision, without distraction, doubt, or hesitation. So when you engage in this simple, brief prayer, understand that change can begin within hours, even minutes. The universe, guided by divine principle, responds to the power of aligned faith. Transformation is not merely possible, it is imminent when expectation meets divine timing. Miracles are not always distant. When faith is focused and aligned, the moment of breakthrough can arrive suddenly, reshaping your life before you even realize it. One of the most overlooked truths in the spiritual journey is that true power often grows in quiet, personal moments. While the world emphasizes recognition, applause, and outward achievement, God's greatest works frequently begin in the private spaces of the heart. The 23-second prayer, though brief, is an invitation into this hidden realm, a place where intimacy with the divine produces results that public effort alone cannot achieve. Spiritual breakthroughs are rarely about spectacle. They are about sincerity, focus, and the personal alignment of your heart with God's purpose. Psychologically, private acts of devotion create a concentrated environment for transformation. When no one is watching, when there are no distractions, the mind can fully commit to the intention of the heart. In these moments, faith is neither diluted by comparison nor clouded by external pressures. This privacy fosters a kind of spiritual clarity, where the heart and spirit can synchronize fully with God's presence. Just as a seed germinates underground before it emerges, the prayer offered in solitude sets the foundation for a visible miracle. What is sown quietly is often reaped powerfully. Philosophically, the principle of personal and private devotion teaches humility and dependence. It reminds us that the potency of prayer does not lie in its public display or the number of witnesses, but in the authenticity of the heart behind it. God does not measure devotion by quantity or visibility. He measures it by the depth of alignment and the purity of intent. When you speak a prayer in private with no expectation of recognition, you create a direct channel to the divine. This is why the brief 23-second prayer can have extraordinary impact. Its strength lies in its unobserved sincerity, free from the interference of pride, distraction, or external judgment. Moreover, the private nature of this prayer allows for intimacy, a closeness with God that cannot be replicated in public. Intimacy cultivates trust, expectation, and a sense of personal connection that magnifies the power of faith. In these quiet moments, the believer can pour out hope, desire, and trust without hesitation or restraint. The heart becomes the focal point, and faith is concentrated, unbroken by the noise of the world. This is where unseen forces begin to operate, orchestrating circumstances, aligning people, and opening doors that the public eye cannot yet perceive. There is also a strategic element to privacy. Just as a master strategist works behind the scenes, God often moves in hidden ways to prepare the perfect moment for revelation. The private act of prayer positions you to receive divine intervention without interference, impatience, or human manipulation. It allows God's plan to unfold according to His wisdom, rather than being shaped by our immediate desires or societal expectations. 23-second prayer, brief yet focused, becomes a powerful instrument in this unseen strategy, producing outcomes that feel miraculous precisely because they emerge quietly at the right time. Furthermore, private devotion reinforces the personal responsibility of faith. It teaches the believer that results are not dependent on public affirmation, but on the sincerity and consistency of one's own engagement with God. It is a reminder that spiritual growth and breakthrough are often internal processes before they manifest externally. The quiet discipline of private prayer cultivates resilience, patience, and expectation, qualities that prepare the heart to recognize and embrace the breakthrough when it arrives. So when you approach this brief, personal prayer, understand that its power is magnified by privacy. It is in the unseen, unshared moments that the foundation for miracles is laid. What you do in silence today can shape the visible reality of tomorrow. The most powerful spiritual breakthroughs often begin in private. Speak your prayer sincerely, quietly, and expectantly, because it is in these unseen moments that God's extraordinary power is activated. Faith is not merely about hoping for what seems reasonable. It is about daring to expect the impossible. Many believers limit their prayers to what they can imagine, what they think is achievable, or what their circumstances suggest is likely. Yet God's power operates beyond the boundaries of human reasoning. When you approach a 23-second prayer with the expectation of the impossible, you are not engaging in wishful thinking. You are activating a spiritual principle that aligns your heart with the limitless nature of divine possibility. Expectation, in this sense, is not passive. It is an active declaration that what the world deems improbable is already within God's capability. Psychologically, expecting the impossible reshapes perception. When your mind is anchored in faith rather than limitation, you begin to recognize opportunities, solutions, and pathways that were previously invisible. The human spirit is designed to respond to the intensity of expectation. Just as a focused gaze allows a person to discern distant objects with clarity, so too does concentrated spiritual expectation allow you to perceive signs, guidance, and moments of intervention that others miss. The brevity of the 23-second prayer is a concentrated vessel for this expectation. In that short time, your heart declares, I believe in what seems impossible, and in doing so, you create a spiritual resonance that attracts miraculous outcomes. Philosophically, expectation of the impossible teaches us about the expansive nature of God's work. While human logic measures outcomes by effort, probability, and past experience, God measures outcomes by faith, alignment, and divine purpose. When you declare an expectation that surpasses ordinary understanding, you step into a realm where divine laws operate differently. Miracles, breakthroughs, and extraordinary manifestations are not exceptions. They are the natural fruit of faith that dares to believe beyond limitations. By expecting the impossible, you invite God to move freely, to orchestrate events, and to demonstrate power that defies human calculation. Expectation also activates courage. To expect the impossible is to stand against doubt, fear, and societal norms. It requires a heart that trusts in divine timing and wisdom, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. This courage strengthens the believer, creating resilience and readiness to act when opportunities, aligned with divine intervention, appear. The 23-second prayer, brief as it is, becomes an exercise in spiritual audacity. It signals to God and to yourself that you are prepared to receive, prepared to walk in faith, and prepared to witness change that transcends ordinary limitations. Furthermore, the expectation of the impossible deepens spiritual intimacy. When you declare what seems unattainable, you invite God to demonstrate His character, power, and faithfulness in ways that touch your heart profoundly. Each act of prayer that reaches beyond the expected reinforces trust, magnifies hope, and builds a personal testimony of divine responsiveness. In this way, miracles are not merely outcomes, they are affirmations of the nature of God and the power of faith itself. Finally, expectation transforms time. Ordinary thinking waits and measures change incrementally. But when faith expects the impossible, it accelerates the spiritual process. The 23-second prayer spoken with audacious expectation becomes a catalyst for change that aligns with divine timing. What seems delayed, impossible, or improbable to human eyes begins to unfold in accordance with the higher order of God's plan. So, when you speak this brief, powerful prayer, do so with expectation, daring to believe that what seems impossible is already set in motion. Trust that your faith is a conduit for divine intervention, that the universe aligns with your heart's declaration, and that miracles unfold when expectation meets divine power. Do not limit your prayers to the possible. Speak with audacious expectation and watch the impossible become your reality.